All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Last Coyote by Michael Connelly, book number 4 in his Harry Bosch police procedural mystery series set in California, Hollywood, and thereabouts. Now, I am a huge fan of Michael Connelly. He's probably my top 5 mystery writers of all time. I've got all of his books right there. It's my Michael Connelly shelf. In my vast library of some 5,000 books here, we've got, anyway, let's put this back up on a camera stand and keep it going. Okay, The Last Coyote. Let's talk about the cover first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. Came out in 1995, this book, so the Harry Bosch series has been going for a long time, and it's still going strong. I like it because it's got a big, bold font for both the author's name and the title of the book, and it's got a coyote there and silhouetted against the city lights. It's just dope cover. I like all the Michael Connelly covers. Anyway, starts out, Harry Bosch is our main man. He is a detective with the LA Police Department. However, he's on admin leave at the beginning of this book. He's in therapy. He's angry at the department. He's in the middle of a psychiatric eval. And of course, he does not respect the process at all. He doesn't think that he should be on admin leave, nor does he think he should be having a psychiatric eval. And he lets the psychiatrist know it. And the interplay between Harry and the psychiatrist at the beginning is laugh out loud funny, almost pathetic. You can kind of see Harry Bosch spiraling into his own trouble of his own making, just because he desperately wants back on the job. And a lot of crap is going wrong in his life. Like, his house has been condemned because it's built up in the Hollywood Hills on the stilts. And if you've been through Hollywood, which I have, bought this shirt right in Hollywood. And if you've been there, you've seen how the houses are built and stuff up on the hills, and landslides and earthquakes, and it's just all them houses eventually are going to slide off. Well, anyways, his has been condemned because just such a thing has happened. Not only is his career and life in shambles, but his house, as a metaphor, it's also in shambles. It's condemned. He can't accept any of this. And mostly he just wants his job back. He still lives in the condemned house. He's not supposed to live there, but he still sneaks in and lives there. It's just the same thing. He wants his job. He's still going to do his job, even if he can't. And so the psychological eval is not going his way because he's being an asshole to the psychiatrist. And then, but he still wants to investigate stuff. So what does he do? He takes it upon himself. He uses his time off, his admin leave, to solve a cold case. And the cold case he's to solve is about his mother's murder. Now, Harry Bosch grew up in like this group home. His mother was murdered when he was very young. Now, here's the thing. Of all the Harry Bosch, because I've read all the Harry Bosch books, and then now I'm reading a lot of them for the second time. And I remember, as I was getting into the story, I was like, oh yeah, this is the story about him investigating his mother's death, which I vaguely remember, and I vaguely remember not liking this book as much as probably went on to my least favorite Harry Bosch book. And it just kind of stuck there for 30 years. Well, since 95. What is it? Like 27 years. And and then I was kind of like, oh, okay, so this is the one that I remember I didn't really care for this when I first read it. That changed. My second reading of this vaulted this up into one of my favorite Harry Bosch books. And I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience where you read a book a long time ago and you're kind of ho-hum, and then you pick it up a little bit later and they're like, oh my God, this is one of the best things I've read. It's happened to me about a dozen times in my life and all the 5,000 somewhat books I've got here. But this was a pleasant surprise because I exceeded my expectations the second time through. And like I said, I love Harry Bosch. Michael Connelly is a brilliant writer. And I don't know why I had such a negative opinion. It wasn't negative. I still liked it back then. It just wasn't my favorite. If any of that makes sense, we'll get over. But stop. Okay, this was fucking dope the second time around. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, so during this investigation, so Harry wants to go investigate his mother's cold case murder, never solved. She was a prostitute, and he knew that. He knew that growing up. He knew that. And so he starts down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out why his mother's murder was never solved back then, why the case was sort of turned into a cold case and kind of dropped and sort of forgotten about. So he kind of starts investigating this, and he starts with going to visit his mother's old roommate, who is also a prostitute, and she is still alive, and her name is Meredith. Now, there's a very touching conversations that happen between Harry Bosch and Meredith as he's investigating, and he's asking him, hey, what was my mother like? What was going on at the time she was murdered? Well, anyway, throughout the course of this investigation and conversation, and he goes and talks to some other people too, but he begins to think that maybe there were some high-level police involved in his mother's murder, because he starts to get some clues, like the whores, like his mom and the other prostitutes were never really locked up for their crimes. And he's thinking, well, maybe it was because there were some favors going on between the prostitutes and the Hollywood police or whatever. And then I remember, there's a part of this book that made me laugh, where Harry Bosch goes into his lieutenant's office, and this lieutenant is reading, and Harry Bosch has no respect for this lieutenant. Thinks he's just one of the goofiest, most stupid people to ever be put in a leadership position. And when he walks into the guy's office, the guy is actually reading a leadership / motivational book on how to be a good leader. And he notices there's a bunch of other books like that. And here's the thing. I probably shouldn't say this, but I worked in law enforcement for a bit too. If you followed my channel, you know what I do. And I'm going to tell you, the guys that read the leadership books, God help them, they're usually the worst leaders of the fucking team. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. And not only that, but now that there's social media, they're always posting. They think they're such great leaders, but little do they know that nobody respects them. But they keep posting these leadership memes on their Facebook and social media, and I just roll my eyes. I probably shouldn't have even said any of that. But anyway, I laughed because I can relate. Because Harry Bosch walked in and saw the one leader that he thought was the biggest piece of garbage, useless, leader is a fan of these leadership books. Anyway, where was I? Oh, so he goes off on this adventure to solve the murder of his mother from a long time ago. And this is a very interesting journey he takes. And I also relate to this also because, Harry Bosch grew up in a group home without really knowing his biological mother. I was adopted. I mentioned this before. I was adopted. I never knew a blood relative till just recently. And so I kind of am always a little bit, I pay attention a little bit more to books about people searching for their past. And I don't know why the first time I read this, that element of the story just skipped over my head, because it's normally something that I really enjoy reading about, these journeys and these mysteries about your heritage. And I really enjoyed Harry Bosch's the second time through, and I don't know why. But it's a 10 out of 10. This book is one of the best. You would have asked me 5 years ago, hey, you've read all the Michael Connelly, Harry Bosch books. Which one do you think was the worst? I would have said The Last Coyote. Now you ask me the same question, and you're going to say, which one is the worst? Well, I don't know, but one of the best is The Last Coyote. So 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.